Welcome, friends of the Greasy Shop Rag. Today we're going to take a look at a Husqvarna top panel chainsaw, the T540xp. The customer complaint on this repair is that the saw bogs. He might make a cut, it bogs out, it dies, he's got to pull and pull, maybe it'll restart. So I have a fair idea what the problem is going to be on this one. I've seen it before, but we're going to take the opportunity to hook the saw up to the computer using the auto tune and the common service tool software to take a look and see if there's any error code stored in the saw. You can see here the saw's got 160 hours of runtime. There is one code 11 that happened 4 times. The last time it happened, it's kind of blurry there, but it was about a couple hundred starts ago. I really don't think that's part of his problem, but we'll take a look at what number 11 code is. Let's see what it says. Engine may misfire or shut off. Faulty connection might be the problem. It happened 4 times in the last several hundred hours of runtime. I don't know what the problem is, but I'm not going to go looking for it. I don't think it has anything to do with his complaint. So the connector here that I got in the tweezers, that has to be plugged back in when we're done, or the kill switch isn't going to work. So don't skimp on that. Now you might be an owner of a T540 and you may have a similar problem, and you're thinking, well, I don't have a common service tool. I can't hook my saw up to the computer and see if there's any error codes. And it's true, you can't. And later in this video you'll see that I use a compression gauge and a pressure gauge and some other specialty tools. And you might not have those. Well, what are you going to do? Well, the beauty of this video is that the answer lies in a repair that doesn't cost you any money at all. So just follow along here. We do have to completely diagnose this before just moving to what I think the answer is. And you'll see later the answer is pretty simple. And if I just fixed that and ignored, looking in the cylinder or checking for error codes, that would be pretty silly. Sending a saw out with potentially another problem that I could have fixed if I would have looked for it. So that spark plug didn't look terrible. We're going to look in the cylinder, and it's a 10mm hole there, so it's kind of hard to see, but I can just get a glimpse of the area right above the exhaust port. And if I don't see any scoring there, I usually feel pretty good about the condition of the cylinder. So now we're going to check the compression. The reason I'm checking it is because I found that with the T540, at least some of the older ones, as the cylinder wears and the compression drops, if it's hovering around 100, 110, that's it. It won't idle anymore. I've had several of them where I put a new piston, rings, and cylinder on and not done anything else to the saw, and it completely cured a non-idling issue. So what do we have on this one? It looks like 125 psi. So there's still a little bit of life left in this. And in the end, the customer will be happy to get this back with a relatively low repair bill. So I am going to put a new spark plug in it. Gap it to 0.5 millimeter. Yeah, I know I said the spark plug that came out of there looked pretty good, and now you see me putting a new one in. I'm not just parts gouging.
Bullshit detected. Take precautions.
I mean, a guy wants it back running decent, and he doesn't want to have to mess with things like changing a spark plug. So we're going to stick a new one in there for him. I'm going back into the fuel tank. And the reason for that is because what I saw is encouraging. I'm confident that this saw will be going back out. So we'll put a new filter on it and give the customer one less thing to worry about later on. I want to pressure test the fuel line. I usually pump them up to 10 psi. See if there's a hole in the fuel line, you're going to know right away the needle's not going to stay up at 10 pounds. So we've got our new filter in there. What's next? Well, as it turns out,
Crap. I forgot to check for an update.
we're like, what, 6.5 minutes into this repair. And when I had it hooked up to the common service tool, I forgot to check for updates. So Husqvarna will frequently upload updates to the firmware, and when we hook the equipment up to our software, it'll tell us if there's a fresh update for that. They might be addressing a known issue, or they might be compensating for new parts, and they have updates. So we periodically check when the saws come in, see if there's an update available. And I just forgot to do it when I had it hooked up before. It's no big deal. One thing you got to have when you check for updates is the part number of the ignition module. So that's why we pulled the starter off of there. And here's a different screen on the common service tool. Now right above that box you saw a version number. And once we punch in the model of this saw, the carb will automatically come up, but we have to select the ignition module. So there's the one that's in it. There's the one it wants to update to, but it's the same version, so there's no point in updating it. We are up to date. All right, well here is the free repair. If you look in behind this boot, you're gonna find the fitting for the impulse line, and for whatever reason these periodically pop off of here on the T540. It's pretty common for it to happen. We'll try and get a closer shot here so you can see what's going on. I know you can't see anything.
Bullshit level, DEFCON 5.
There we go. There you can see the fitting and the hose popped off of there. Well, you can imagine it's starving for fuel. So we're gonna put that hose back on, and the repair is basically complete right there. The rest of this was just diagnosing the saw, seeing if there's anything else to fix. You know, when these things come in, like this one, I would say more than half of the, I bet you 3/4 of the equipment, maybe even more, that has a running issue. I never test run them before I get them on the bench. That might seem silly, but you know, as long as I get a good vibe from what the customer has complained about, I just start looking for a problem. I don't know how many of the other mechanics do it this way, or if, you know, if me not doing a test run ahead of time is just silly or what, but that's the way I roll. I mean, if the customer says it bogs, I don't need to start it up to know it's bogging. And you can see here, 10 minutes into this repair, we found the problem. And actually, I probably knew what the problem was before we started. But like I said, I did want to look at all that stuff. So we're going to bolt this back together and see how if it fires up. And we know it will. And then I'll take it out and drop it in a log and see how it runs. So that's all I got for you on the cheap and free Husqvarna T540 bog repair. Thanks for watching. Later.